Okay, guys, we're live. There, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Okay. Hey, guys. So welcome to the first webinar of the year. It's about religious life on campus, growing your religious life. So I think maybe we'll just start by quickly going around. Everyone can say their name, their school that they're in, their year, and also like the year they are in school and what they're studying. So maybe, I don't know, I don't think you guys come up in the same order, like on the bottom on all of your screens as you do on my screen, but I'll just go in the order that you're on the bottom of my screen. So Alyssa, maybe you want to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. I'm Alyssa. I'm a sophomore currently at the University of South Florida, and I'm studying health science.
So, thanks. Arya?
Hey, I'm Arya. My years don't really make sense, but I'm basically a fourth year now at the University of Waterloo. I'm studying mathematical physics and pure mathematics.
Awesome, thanks. Who's next? Corey. Or yeah. Corey, you want to go introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Corey. I'm currently at a sophomore at Harvard University, and I'm not sure what I'm studying, but it might be computer science.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Hannah?
Wait, I'm muted. Okay, hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a sophomore at the University of Delaware, and I'm studying elementary education and special education.
Thanks. Joel?
Hi, my name is Joel. I go to the University of Oregon, and I'm currently studying planning, public policy, and management.
Thanks. Ross?
Is it working?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, I'm Ross. I'm a junior at Northeastern University studying finance and political science.
Thanks. Okay, Sarah? Can you unmute yourself? Or maybe because I muted you, you can't unmute yourself. Oh, okay. Wait, were you unmuted? No. Okay, maybe we'll try to get back to you. Everyone, this is Sarah. She is currently in Emory, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think so. Okay, and maybe you'll tell us what you're studying later if we could figure out how to unmute you. Okay, Vivian, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Vivian. I'm studying at Carleton University in Ottawa, Canada, and I'm pursuing my BA in Public Affairs and Policy Management.
Okay, thanks. So this is at least half the cohort. The problem with Google Hangouts is that it's probably the best way to do the webinars, but not everyone could fit in all the time. Sometimes people have trouble getting in. Yeah, I know, Arya, thanks. he texted me. But so the idea is that whoever comes to the webinar, it's ideal to come to the live webinar so that you could interact with each other, you know, in real time. But for the people that aren't here, when we say we're going live, like we're recording it. So it'll be on YouTube. It's on YouTube now. If people like, they can watch the live stream. So we actually have 2 people watching like on the live stream on YouTube. But you can also watch it later, recorded. So if we have any ideas that you want to go over later, then you can just feel free to watch it again later. Okay, so we're going to start off with a question. Actually, first, let me reintroduce myself to everyone. Hey guys, I'm Dove. I run Kahal with the help of Hart Levine. Some of you may know. Basically, Kahal started a few years ago. The idea was pretty simple, just to work with religious students on campuses that don't really have strong religious communities. Most of you, I think at this point, understand what Kahal is and what it's all about. If not, we're going to spend the last maybe 10 minutes of the webinar clarifying any questions that anyone has. But yeah, really at the end of the day, this is probably one of the most important parts of Kahal. These webinars where we get together and kind of establish this network of religious students from across North America. It's pretty powerful, where I think we have, you know, a large chunk of the whole North America, like right here in this webinar. So it's pretty powerful to think about that. So I'm going to start by posing a question, and ideally, I guess we'll go around. But really, if you have an answer, just unmute yourself, and whoever unmutes themselves first can answer the question. So the question I want to pose to all of you is: when is the last time there was a great religious event on your campus, and you could define that however you choose to define a religious event. When was the last time there was a great religious event on your campus, and what was it?
Okay, I'll go. The most recent great religious event on campus happened last night, in my house, actually. We had a Seudah Shishi, and a lot of people came from both Carleton University and Ottawa University, and there was just lots of food, and we had the Chabad Rebbetzin that we invited to share some stories, and that was really good, and it was a good motivation to come hang out with people and then get ready for Yom Kippur.
That's awesome. How many people came to it?
It was about 15.
That's awesome. Wow,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, does anyone else want to share?
Sure, I could go next.
Yeah.
Last thing was probably a Hillel event, but it wasn't necessarily a religious event. But before that, we had a Shabbat dinner, or I think what was it? We had a Hillel Shabbat dinner where we had, I think, 80 or 90 students, and it was predominantly first years, and it was quite good. I guess one thing I try to do is always make sure to sit in middle group of people I don't know, and try to, I guess, meet them and get them to come back to Hill events, stuff like that. So I felt like this time I was very successful, and yeah, with that.
Cool. How many people came to this event?
Somewhere between 70 and 90. I don't know the exact number.
Okay. Wow. Cool. Thanks. Okay. Who's next?
I guess I'll go next. So our most recent one probably would have been our Rosh Hashanah event Sunday night. There was about 80 people between current students, freshmen, alumni, families from the area that kind of came in. We just rented out the Alumni Center and had services and a Rosh Hashanah meal there for everybody to come and just at least have something for the holiday, since a lot of people here aren't super involved.
Wow, that's amazing. How big was it?
It was about 80 people.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Okay. Who else? Sarah, Ross, Joel, or Hannah?
Go ahead.
Me. Okay. Sorry. So our last event, that's probably right before Rosh Hashanah at Chabad. And we made challahs for Rosh Hashanah, and we discussed why they're usually round, and just significance of the new year, and challah making. And it was a group of all women, so it was just the impact, not the impact, but the connection that women have with Judaism, and it was really nice. And there are about 15 of us. So.
Cool. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, Joel, you were gonna.
So my school literally just started, but we had Rosh Hashanah last week, and we had at one of the there's actually 3 different Jewish groups on campus, and so each of them had a certain amount of people, but the one I went to had 40 people, and it was amazing. It's always a good time. A lot of people come out and really get together for holidays and stuff like that. So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Ross or Sarah, if you can unmute yourself.
Invited you in. So I guess most recent thing, a few Shabbos ago, hosted a tish in their apartment, which was really nice. I actually showed up a couple hours late for it, but still tons of people there, singing, food, drinking. I think it's the first time anything that ever actually happened on my campus.
Cool, that's awesome. Okay, Sarah, we still can't unmute you? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Sarah, the best thing to do might be for you to leave and then join again, because I'm not really sure why you're still muted. But until then, we're waiting to hear from you. But we'll keep going until then. So, okay, probably the most powerful thing about what all of you just shared was that I don't know if anyone really had the same events, which is really cool just to think about in general. And there are so many different kinds of events. There's for a religious community, for a community that doesn't really have any religious people but wants to have more religious-oriented events. Some of your events had 10 people, 15 people, other events had 70, 80, 90 people, and they're all great because some of your campuses have thousands of Jews and maybe 100 involved on a regular basis. Some of your campuses may have only 500 Jews and maybe only 20 people involved on a regular basis. Some of your campuses may only have you involved on a regular basis. But whatever that might be, this is probably the round robin, I guess, if you could call it, what we just said right now. It's probably the most powerful part of anything that will offer you in Kahal, that you're all students that have similar campuses in one way or another, and you're all kind of going through the same thing. So really, that you should all continue, and we'll show you how we plan on continuing this. But all of you guys have yourselves to use as a resource, because all of you guys have done amazing things already, and you guys can all learn from each other, much more than you can learn from us. So yeah, so that was just something I really wanted to start with. I really wanted all of you guys to hear what the rest of you have been doing so far. Okay, so I think we'll just get right to it. Hart, welcome, or not welcome. Okay, that was Hart Levine. He has 2 kids that he loves bringing to the webinars. So maybe we'll see him again in a few minutes. Okay, so if you guys didn't get the source sheet, I'm gonna just send the link now in the chat thing on the side. So we're just gonna go through a few sources, and we'll kind of hopefully find out how that's related to the larger discussion for today. So if you guys could just open up the sources, and does anyone want to maybe read the first source? English, Hebrew, Spanish?
I'll read the first one.
Awesome, thank you, Alyssa.
I'll just do it in English. So Sanhedrin 17b, just that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Any city that does not have the following 10 things, a Torah scholar is not permitted to live there. A court that punishes with lashes and punishes with penalties, 2. A charity fund collected by 2 and distributed by 3. 3, a synagogue. 4, a bathhouse. 5, a restroom. 6, a doctor for circumcision. 7, a bookkeeper. 8, a notary for writing scrolls. 9, a butcher. And 10, a teacher of children.
Okay, great, thank you. So this source is really interesting for a lot of reasons. Probably the most interesting thing about this source is just that it kind of lays out, these are the 10 things that define a community for someone who considers themselves, a dedicated Jew or a learned Jew. This kind of a Jew should not live in a community that lacks any of these 10 things. So maybe just a question I'd like to pose to all of you. What is so valuable about all these 10 things? Maybe there's a common theme between all of them, or maybe one thing in particular. What's so special about any of these 10 things that a community cannot exist without them? That's just it's a question I'm gonna pose to you. We're not gonna answer it right now, or if anyone wants to answer it right now, you're feel free to. But I think we'll also just go to the second source. So does anyone want to volunteer to read the second source from Pirkei Avot? Yeah, Vivian.
So, Hillel says, do not separate yourselves from the congregation. Do not believe in yourself until the day of your death. Do not judge your fellow until you come to his place. Do not say something that you think cannot be heard, for in the end it will be heard. Do not say, when I will be available, I will study Torah, lest you never become available.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have these 2 sources here. One is from the Talmud, the Gemara. One is from Pirkei Avot, which is Mishnayot, which came before the Gemara. The question I want to pose to all of you is, the first source very clearly lays out these 10 things you need for a community. The second source, it has a lot of different aspects, but let's focus on the first one for now. It says, do not separate yourself from the congregation. So maybe we can either deal with both of them combined or each of them individually. So the first question is, for the first source, what are these 10 things? Why are they so valuable, and is it missing anything? And for the second source, why should I not separate myself from the congregation? And what does that mean for people who may not have a congregation that they're a part of? Does anyone have anything?
So to answer the second one, I think it's important not to separate from your congregation, it's kind of like a unifying thing, like on a smaller Jewish populated campus, because like you kind of have that instant connection with someone, like, you know, like, okay, if I talk about a holiday, like they'll get it, they'll understand it, versus talking to someone that you might be in your class and you have to explain like, oh, I'm not going to be here on this day because it's a Jewish holiday and like X, Y, and Z, and they're like, oh, cool, all right, sure, like whatever. So I think that's like one reason why it's important that you shouldn't separate, just because of that whole unifying matter.
Okay, great. So, like, how far would you take that? Do you think? Meaning, let's say, you know, obviously on campus you encounter so many different kinds of Jews. So it says don't separate yourself from someone. So what if a Jewish person's going to do something that you wouldn't necessarily do? So how would you deal with that?
I personally, I mean, the one thing you can do is just educate. You can't necessarily force someone to do something if they don't understand, like if they've never learned it and don't understand it. So I think I'd probably just tell them, being like, hey, look, like this is a really important thing. Like if you find the time, like maybe come out for a little bit and experience it to some extent, and then kind of you can incorporate more time experiencing it, and then once they fully get the idea of it, then like they can appreciate it and they'll actually be a part of it.
Okay, cool, great, thank you.
Yeah.
What else? Does anyone else have anything maybe that they'd like to share on either one of these sources that kind of struck them about their community, or just struck them in general about the sources? So maybe just to start a little bit more of a discussion, I think what really struck me about the 10 things in the first source in the Gemara and Sanhedrin is that, what about these 10 things? Why is it limited to only these 10 things? Like, I don't know, maybe a community needs a musician, maybe a community needs like a storyteller. Why are those things not here and these 10 things are?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that honestly the 10 things are there because like the first one has to do with like punishment and lashing and stuff, and like we stopped, like, I don't know if like the Jews stopped doing that, but like it wasn't one of the punishments we kept doing as it went on. And then this is like charity funds, and it has to do with like it says like you have to give 10% of like your earnings to charity, which is like another thing about Torah. And then you go to 3, you got to learn Torah, go to the synagogue. A bathhouse is to like go to the mikveh. We say bracha at the restroom. And like one like the big things is circumcision, and like they're all things that have to be done to keep yourself like kosher, you know? Like as in like you have to go to back then you have to go to the mikveh if you know, like before Yom Kippur and stuff, and like all that different stuff. Even now, but like more so then, and it's like the 10 things that need to be like happening, or you can't have anything going on. So
Okay, interesting. So in other words, so these 10 things are like the bare minimum. You can't do anything if you don't have a synagogue. You can't do anything without a bathroom. You can't do anything if you don't have someone to teach your children.
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, yeah, like because you say every morning, you say thank you for letting me go to the bathroom. You know, like thank you for, you walk out. You're supposed to say a prayer. So I mean, it makes sense that because you have to say a prayer after you walk out of the bathroom, if there's no bathroom, then you can't have like you can't do that stuff because you're not following in the ways that Hashem wants you to do. You know what's necessary.
Okay, so it's actually interesting. I definitely hear what you're saying, and I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I think what really also strikes me is the first one. Number one, that it's the first one. Number two, why is this so important? Why is the Gemara stressing so much that you need to have punishment? Is that I don't know. I don't know. Could you imagine like a Hillel or Chabad on campus saying like, "Come for your weekly lashes"? as like one of our things that we do right after Kabbalat Shabbat. Now we're gonna have weekly lashes. Why is it the first thing? Okay, I don't know. It's a hard question, but moving on. So, and does anyone else have anything maybe they want to share on any of this?
Just to comment on why we need punishment. Not necessarily why we need punishment, but in society, if we don't have some sort of enforcement of the rules, eventually society will just fall apart. So, besides the fact that it says we need lashes, and I think what's more important is the fact we need some sort of code of law to keep everyone in line.
Okay, interesting. So then that fits into what Joel was saying, kind of this bare minimum of to have a functioning society. You need it's just how it is. You need to have law and order. So you need to, not that it's the #1 value per se. We don't, before anything else, we need to make sure we have lashes, but that we just need to have law and order, and that's kind of like the baseline for society, how it functions.
I mean,
okay.
I mean, one thing about that is like it's like keeping people like accountable to like do like what you say you're gonna do. So I can think that's like a big thing is like it's like it says there's punishments and penalties. The penalties are for it. If you're not behaving, we're gonna keep you honest and keep you, focused, and so you're not gonna do that again.
Okay.
I also think that it's for the success of the community to just ensure the continuity of the community, and that's why it's related to #2, which is about charity, and it's about making sure that everyone, even the most disadvantaged people in the community, are able to maintain their place.
Okay, cool. Do you want to maybe flesh that idea out more?
Sure. So, I mean, tzedakah and chesed in general are a huge component of Judaism. And I think there's a specific relation to students on campus, and perhaps even the students that aren't so religiously inclined. They always have this big sense of tikkun olam and like wanting to do good. And it's this inherent sense inside a Jew that you want to be able to fix the world. And if you are doing your part in trying to do acts of loving kindness, then you're going to be able to form a community around you and ensure that those that have less than you are able to come up to a level to feel fulfilled and to become a part of the community so that everyone's in an equal playing field.
Okay, cool. I love that idea. Thank you. So I think we're going to move on to the second source, unless someone has something they want to say on the first source still. Okay, great. So moving on to the second source, kind of from this bare minimum that these are the 10 things you need for the community. Then you have, an assumption that you're already part of the community. So Hillel has all these statements: don't separate yourself from the congregation, don't believe in yourself until the day of your death. All these kind of like very ominous statements to a certain extent. So Alyssa explained a little bit kind of what it means, like the value of not separating yourself from the congregation. But kind of usually when we have a Mishnah and there's statements made by one person, hopefully there's kind of some connection between all of them. So what do you guys think? What is the connection between not separating yourself from the rest of the community, and then all these other huge statements of not trusting yourself until the day of your death? Don't say something that cannot be heard, for in the end it will be heard. What do you guys think the connection between all these statements might be?
I think in the case for the do not believe in yourself until the day of your death, I think the focus of that is like humility and being humble. Because if you believe that, oh, I'm always right, I'm the top, then you're going to separate yourself from your community. And if you realize that, I don't know everything and there's a lot out there that I'm not sure about, you can then integrate yourself into your community, because you'll realize that others within your community have things to give as well. And it's not just about you.
That's awesome. So in other words, if I understand what you're saying, the first statement is almost like a title maybe for the rest of all the statements. Don't separate yourself for the community, and this is how you need to make sure that you are doing all these things. Okay, interesting. Wow. Anyone else have something to say? Hannah, I really like that idea. Wow.
Yeah, the part about not judging your fellow Jew, your friend, I think is a really big part because everyone, when you come to university, comes from a different background and different level of exposure to Judaism. And so being able to tell yourself that, you know, just because they might do things a little bit differently doesn't mean that they're any less or any more. It just means that everyone comes with their own ingredients that form them to be the person that they are.
Interesting. Thank you. Anyone else have anything to share on these things? So I'll just share for myself. I think about these two sources a lot. We put this curriculum together a little while ago, and the reason why we have these two sources kind of as the Torah portion of the first webinar that we have is that it's kind of complicated. You know, we join communities that for the most part are already existing to some extent. So on the one hand, you know, we have this rule that Hillel teaches us not to separate ourselves from the congregation. But on the other hand, some of us join communities that may not have the aspects that a congregation might need. It may not have, you know, one of these 10 things that the Gemara tells us. It may not have. Hopefully, it doesn't have lashes, but it may not have 9 of the 10 things that the Gemara tells us the community needs. But yet, there's also the separate value of just not separating yourself from the congregation. And the only thing, maybe according to Hillel, the way Hannah explained it for us, was that the only thing you need, you know, to not separate yourself. The only thing you need to not separate yourself from the congregation is you need humility and you know, and maybe not saying stupid things or whatever. But I also think another important aspect of these two sources is that the Gemara in Sanhedrin kind of tells us that this is the communal's responsibility. It's not one individual's responsibility. This is what the community, you know, in plural, meaning every individual member of the community, needs to make sure that they're doing in order to make sure that the community as a whole is functioning. But the Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah, is teaching us that this is what I need to do. This is my personal responsibility, that I shouldn't look to anyone else to say, oh, like, why aren't you doing that? This is an internal thing. Just focusing on yourself, making sure you personally don't separate from the rest of the community, making sure you stay humble, making sure you don't say things that you'll regret saying. And I just think it's an important model to, one, look at yourself as an individual, as part of the community, but also look at yourself as an entire community as a whole. So I'm going to use these sources maybe just to segue to a separate kind of a conversation. Okay. So just going to pause for 1 second. So evidently there are other people that have been trying to get into the call and they're not able to get in. So for those of you who are, hey, Eliza. I
finally got on.
Okay, so hey, Eliza, welcome. So for those of you that are watching live right now, but for some reason Google isn't letting you join, I'm really sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry that you can't join. I would say that for the future, it is kind of like first come, first serve, because not everyone will fit in the webinar, unfortunately. But other things that you can do is you if you have, you know, maybe important discussion points, things you want to share, feel free to post it to the Facebook group. Feel free to email me afterwards, or maybe even email all the fellows, and we can start a discussion that way. But my apologies if you're not able to join the call. Okay, so yeah, so segueing from the Torah portion to the more kind of like practical, what do we do now with these sources? I wanted to, hey Evan, what's up?
Hey, hi.
Hey, wait, the power was out. Yeah, it wasn't the power out.
Power's out in Harvard Hill where I am. Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, wait, maybe just quickly, Eliza and Evan, do you want to introduce yourselves to everyone?
Sure.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, I'll go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Eliza. I'm from Springfield, New Jersey. I go to Kean University, majoring in environmental biology. I like to go hiking. Anything else? I'm really excited to be part of Kahal. That's me.
That's great. We can ask you more questions later about what you like to do. Okay. Evan, you want to just go quickly?
Hi, I'm Evan Crane. I'm a senior at MIT studying computational biology. I'm the leader of the Orthodox community here. And yeah, I don't know what else. I'm from Newton, Massachusetts originally.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we just kind of, for those of you who may be just joining us, we just spent kind of like the first half of the webinar discussing more of a foundational thing. You know, there are two sources that say this is the personal aspect of the community, this is the communal aspect of the community. But now I think what a few people, I'm getting a message over here. A few people have kind of been wondering at home is how do we make all these sources that we just learned practical? So before going any further with the sources or discussion, if you look on the source sheet, there's this diagram that we have.
It worked.
Hey, welcome, Gabriella.
Okay.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. So we have two more of us. Hi, I'm Gabby. We have two more of us on another chat that we've been trying to get in on.
I know. I'm not really sure why it's not letting you guys join.
Okay. So Shai and Toby, if you download it on your phone, and then you click, download Google Hangouts on.
Okay, Gabby, I'm just gonna mute you for right now.
Okay.
Gabby, you just mute yourself.
How do I mute myself?
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So if you look at the diagram that we have on the source sheet, it kind of outlines what a lot of you may be experiencing on your campus. There's kind of the general Jewish population, which may be a few hundred, a few thousand Jews. Then there's the larger Jewish community. That, you know, it's a smaller subset of that. Then there's the religious community, which for some of you, you know, might be two people, it might just be you, it might not even be you. But that's kind of how we like to look at the whole Jewish community. And so really for right now, we're focusing on just the yellow circle, just the religious community. So I guess the question I'd like to pose to all of you, now that we've seen the sources, now that you've all shared a little bit about the events that you've run on your campuses or religious events that have happened in the past, is there a value in bringing the community together, just the religious community or just a religious aspect of the community? Or maybe all of our events should just be, you know, related to like Tikkun Olam and Chesed, which don't necessarily have a religious component. Is there a value in only having events, you know, not only forever, but having events that only just focus on religious aspects every so often? Is there a value in bringing the whole religious community together, just the religious community?
Well, I'll speak to Ottawa. We have a very small Frum community here, so if it were to have just been just the Frum students, that would be minuscule, so it's not feasible. But I also think that in general, it's super important to be able to have students that don't have an exposure to like Orthodox Judaism to be able to have these positive, meaningful experiences.
Okay, so kind of maybe having a religious event, but not only to religious Jews, to all Jews, but with the religious, but the event will only have a religious twist to it, maybe.
Yeah, correct. That's exactly it.
Okay, great. What the rest do you think? Gabby, did you want to say something? Okay. Anyone else? Does everyone agree with Vivian that there's not a value in just bringing, you know, the two religious Jews together on campus, but rather it's bringing all the Jews together, but maybe having an event that only focuses on something just religious?
At least on our campus, we have about 20 Orthodox people on campus, and I think there's really a lack of like any kind of Jewish learning going on campus besides like, you know, an hour shiur a week with pizza. It's not like such a big thing. So being able to have an event where people are learning perhaps at a higher level that wouldn't be accessible to people who aren't from Orthodox backgrounds is something that is beneficial, at least to our community, I think.
Okay, so
at least on our campus,
has there ever been an attempt at organizing more of a religious learning?
Really a lack of like, yeah, we definitely maybe not on a regular basis, but from the semester there are events outside of what the rabbi plans, outside of what is really within the infrastructure of Hillel, I guess.
Okay, so kind of like to contrast what Vivian's saying. So there are some religious events that maybe should only be for the religious people, just out of a practicality, because if there's, you know, your campus is a little bit of a exception to some of these other campuses, but since the religious community kind of is sizable in its own right, to have, you know, Jewish learning just specifically for them, that's only targeted for them, is also a value sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And anyone else have something to share on that?
I think I might be able to try to share something. This is something I noticed is, I guess, at Waterloo, there's a few, I guess, rabbis who come in from Toronto, since we're relatively close, and they tend to be significantly more right-wing leaning than me and several other people. And what I've noticed that's sort of done is it's sort of pushed, I guess, me me and some other people sort of away from Jewish learning, because I think I might be able to try to share something. I guess we're not really interested in doing what they want. Also, another, I guess, thing which is happening, so one of my roommates' mothers passed away, and one thing we've been trying to do is having a daily minyan for Shacharit. The thing which has happened is there aren't enough religious male students, and so we have a minyan at 7:20 every day, but it sort of puts, I guess, we have to rely on some of the not as religious students to come too, but they're not always interested in coming, and, you know, it puts a toll on just everyone who has to, you know, instead of waking up at 8:30 every day, they have to wake up at 6:30. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
What school do you go to?
I go to the University of Waterloo. It's
Waterloo. And where is that?
So it's about 50 minutes, an hour and a half southwest of Toronto.
Okay, Toronto. It's so crazy because I go to Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And I was here for
you know
Rosh
Jason.
Hashanah. Jason who?
Jason Ween.
Oh yeah, the grad student physics.
Yeah, I work with his
Of
advisor
course.
now.
I spent so many Shabbats with him by Chabad. He just
I
got
know.
engaged.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, we'll talk about this after.
Okay.
Mazal tov, though.
Huh? What'd you say?
Mazal tov to Jason.
Yeah, I'll let him know. His fiance is also another grad student, and they met at Chabad at UCSB.
Cool.
So anyway, so the second day of Rosh Hashanah, we couldn't make a minyan. Like, we started Musaf at, I want to say like 12:30, and we had only 8 guys. And a big part of it is a lot of the like religious people or people who would come to make minyan were away. But there's also like the Shabbat right before. We have a few Jewish orgs on campus, and 2 of the rabbis went to the AE Pie house and asked if guys could come help make a minyan, and they just weren't feeling it. So I'm so like shocked that you guys can try to make a Shachari minyan every day at 7 in the morning.
Okay, so maybe like to segue from there. So Aryeh, maybe you can start the discussion. Sure. How is it that you go about organizing yourselves to have a minyan every day? Maybe the rest of you also. How is anyone here, you know, organized the students to kind of run events or things like that?
So I guess one thing which we do is, well, we know who the Chabad, it's at Chabad, so that's automatically, I guess, one person. But then we sort of try to get all the religious guys to come, which.
Do you have like a list you keep of all the religious guys?
Well, I could probably count them all on 1-2 hands.
Okay.
Also, so another important thing to know about Waterloo is it's a co-op school, which means throughout our undergraduate careers, there's some terms that we're off doing work or research. I'm currently off doing work in the city of Waterloo, so it's a bit different. So semester to semester, the whole landscape could be completely different. But anyways, what was it? I just got sidetracked. But no, so we know who all the religious guys are, and you know everyone goes in a WhatsApp group. And we figured out from there. There's also a Jewish community there in the city. And there's an Orthodox shul. I think there are 3 religious families. So I guess the men from those families will occasionally come, but there's a shul there who has a minyan too. So their main priority is the shul. And then what do we do? And then also like we have, you know, some more traditional friends who will come, you know, once, twice a week, or let's say over the past few weeks, I haven't been feeling so good. So I've, you know, been trying to message people, you know, to take my spot. to make sure they have a minion, which I don't think we haven't had a minion every day, but I think well, the guy who has to stay Kaddish has had a minion every day because Friday oftentimes we don't get a minion. He'll be in Toronto for Shabbat, so it's not an issue. Or we'll try to get a Mincha Marav minion.
Got it. Okay, so it sounds like the way you're doing a lot of your organizing is really kind of just like texting people and really like on an individual basis, reaching out to people, but only because you know you have everyone's number, you know who to text. But I guess the WhatsApp group is really a big takeaway. Like you really find the WhatsApp group is really valuable for organizing these things for the minion in general.
As long as there's a rule for the WhatsApp group that's all basically the Chabad rabbi posts in it, and then if he asks a question, you all only answer the question, and that's it. Like,
got it. Okay.
No other information, or else things get sidetracked and spiral out of control.
Right. Okay, great. What about the rest of you? What are some other ways that you've used on your campus to kind of gather the troops for Vivian? Like, how do you invite everyone for? Or yeah, Eliza.
Well, I know on my campus that we're a very, very small Hillel. So anytime that we have anybody that we meet from tabling or just from recruiting that shows an interest, we'll get their information. And we do have a Facebook group that we always post on for events. We have an Instagram that we always post on for events. And what I do and what we all try to do on the e-board is on the executive board of the Hillel is like we'll send out personal texts. And I think because our Hillel is so small, we can afford to do that because if I text maybe 5 or 6 people that I know are Jewish on campus, like, hey, we're having an event, come by, I know personally that like they feel good that somebody's texting them like to come, and that's how we really get people to come to our events is like we personally send out these texts and we send out these emails. But I think that system only works because we have such a small Hillel at this point.
I have to agree with Elisa. It's the same thing in Ottawa. It happens to be like if you know people, you message them, and then getting that private message on Facebook, which is what we use, I guess gets people interested in the event and feeling, good about the fact that you invited them privately and personally, and so they end up coming out. It works much better than having just a big Facebook group and inviting people that way, because then there's no way for people to just, I guess, feel the push to actually come.
You guys are fine. So it sounds like having individual friends is really the way to do it. But what if you want to have like a slightly bigger event? Do you ever do like chain messages? Like you're going to message 10 friends, and then each one of those friends will message 5 other friends.
I feel like those never ever amount to anything. If we were trying to do an event that we were trying to get more of the student body to come, I think the biggest thing that we do would probably be like, I don't know. Oh yeah, we'd probably just like, as people walk by campus, like try to get them to come stop by the event. Like that's what we've been doing, and it's not really such a great method. So if anybody has, like we actually have a Sukkot event coming up that is geared to like more of the student body, not just the Hillel that we have and the Hillel people, that the same 10, 15 people that come to every meeting. So if anybody has any suggestions, besides for the obvious, like putting up flyers, which we already do, and stuff like that, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, does anyone else have any suggestions for Lisa?
Yeah. What we do with Hillel, is sometimes we'll partner with other groups. So I know each semester we always partner with AE5, which is one of the Jewish sororities on campus. And we always get in like probably about 100 for that Shabbat, and it's crazy. And then sometimes we'll also partner, we do a Pride Shabbat, so we partner with the LGBTQ group on campus, and we'll get a decent amount turnout from them. And then I know Hillel does like, well, I think it's new this year, but they're calling it iFest, which is basically an Israel fest. And I know we're partnering, what are we partnering with? But we're partnering with different groups on campus to bring in not only Hillel kids, but also people from other groups as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great idea.
Interesting. So kind of using partnership with other networks of with other organizational networks on campus to kind of get more students for your own events.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. Does anyone else have anything to share?
So one thing I like to do, so I'm the director of outreach for, like, I guess, Hello Waterloo. And one thing I like to do is, or what I do specifically is, well, first, usually, well, you have to understand the whole Toronto demographic really to understand how a lot of this works. But we find is groups from certain, like some of the Jewish schools, the way the, incoming students move, essentially one thing I try to do is I find like the one person who will influence the whole group, and then one of us, somebody on Hilla, will take them on a coffee date and become friends with them and influence them to come to the Hilla events, and they'll bring all their friends to the point, like, you have to identify who the key players in every friend group, and they'll bring everyone else.
Okay, great. Kind of like finding the leader of every group, and kind of then getting that leader to bring everyone else along with them. Okay, wait, Alyssa, I saw you unmute yourself before. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I mean, it was pretty much similar to what Arya ended up saying. So yeah, one thing, because for us, our Hillel Chabad is very, like, unfortunately, is very divided. But what we try to do, at least from the Chabad standpoint, being on board for them, is we try to take newer students who, like, either reach out to us that we meet through our programming called Bull Market. So it's kind of like a showcase of all of the student organizations on campuses and clubs, and they kind of can promote whatever they want. So we just kind of have sign-up sheets, and if we have new students, we try to meet with them, take out the coffee, like, just find common ground, and at least, like, so when they come, they know one person at Shabbat dinner or something, and then they can be like, tell their friends, be like, oh, hey, like, it was actually a lot of fun, like, it wasn't weird, like, it's cool, type of thing. And then in terms of, like, for your Sukkot event that you're having, we do something called Unity Shabbat, or we changed the name to Unity Shabbat last year. And basically everybody on board had to reach out to, like, 5 people, and then that, like, they were like a table leader. So then those 5 people you reached out to, like, could bring however many friends they want to, like, fill a table, essentially. And so it was like they kind of had to choose who they wanted to bring, like, regardless of if they were Jewish or not, because it was more of just like a open cultural thing, like, here, come experience a Shabbat, like, see what it's all about kind of deal, which sounds like what your Sukkot event is kind of going to be like. But that, and then also what happens, a lot of, like, the fraternity, sorority, seeing here, like, if one person's coming from that, then, like, they all come. So I don't know what that, like, how that life is on your campus, but that's kind of how it is here in Florida.
Okay, great. Thanks. Anyone else have anything they want to add? Okay, great. So we're kind of getting to the point where I want to just spend the last 10 minutes talking a little bit more about the technical details of Kahal, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So let me just quickly sum up what we spoke about in the past 15 minutes. If you don't want to listen to me anymore, I'm also going to send out, like, a summary in an email. And so if you want to space out for the next 2 minutes, that's also okay. But just quickly to summarize. So we started off talking, first we started off by giving, everyone kind of gave an idea of a religious event that happened recently on their campus. From there, we spoke about 2 interesting Torah sources. One that kind of, the Gemara and Sanhedrin, that spoke about the more communal aspects of community, and then there was the Mishnah and Avot, Hillel sayings, that kind of spoke about the individual aspects, what I need to do to be part of the community. From there, we springboarded to a discussion about, is there a value in having a religious community just for the religious students? And we kind of had, I guess, like a machloket, just like Hillel and Shammai, between Vivian and Evan, that on the one hand knew there is a value in bringing just the religious students together, just the religious students, like all 20 of them in Harvard, whereas Vivian said there aren't really any other from students, or aren't too many, so it didn't really make sense to bring all of the religious students together. It kind of, you can have a religious event, but for all Jewish students, not just the religious Jews. And then we kind of spent the last 15-20 minutes brainstorming ideas of how to gather students together for these kinds of events, and it was really great. And we're definitely going to continue the conversation for the next few weeks, months, and the rest of the year. Okay, so now I want to spend the last few minutes. We're very strict about making it no longer than an hour, the webinar. So we have until 2. So if anyone has any questions about Kahal, I'm happy to answer them. But maybe I'll just spend 30 seconds quickly going through all of the expectations of Kahal in general, just in case you aren't sure or you got confused. So really quickly, so we have 3 of these webinars a semester. We generally expect you to attend at least 2 of the live ones. If you can't, then you can feel free to watch them on YouTube later. Some people had trouble getting in today, so you could watch them on YouTube. That's also fine. But it's important to if you can, to try to get here at the beginning so that you can be an interactive participant. At the end of the day, like what I'm saying is not nearly as valuable as everything that you guys have said today. So to be a live participant is really important. We then expect fellows to run usually 2 events a semester. Generally, they're related to the webinar. So this first webinar was on religious life on campus. So in the follow-up email, I'm going to send you a list of religious events that the students have normally run in the past. You guys can also feel free to maybe share on the email or maybe even in the Facebook group different religious events that you've run and tried and true that are good ideas. We have the Shabbaton, the annual Shabbaton. Some of you have actually already been there, which is great. But for those of you that haven't been there, the annual Shabbaton is really awesome. I think those of you that have been there can attest to how awesome it is. So this year it's going to be in January, Martin Luther King weekend. I think it's the 13th, if I'm not mistaken. If for some reason you can't come, well, I guess we'll talk about it because the date did change. It was supposed to be in November, but really try to make every effort that you can to come because it really is an incredible weekend. And then on top of that, we also have these check-ins with your mentor. And since we decided to try a different model this year, we don't have individual mentors for every single person. It's really kind of just me or Hart that most of you will be checking in with. So more on that later. Like you'll see in an email to set up appointments to speak with either Hart or I. And yeah, so that's really it. That's my 30-second or 1-minute pitch of what Kahal is if you were confused up until now. Does anyone else have any questions about anything really?
Yeah. If we're already running or planning on running events in the next couple of months, how what's the relationship between us and Kahal and sponsorship and funding?
Okay, so great question. So every other organization on campus, we're not looking really to compete with any other organization. So the idea is that hopefully either you might have already been planning events with other organizations. Maybe you were just planning another Sudash Shishit at your home, whatever it might be. So the idea is that Kahal is just another member that's supporting those events. So we discussed that and in general each fellow kind of gets $150 a semester for funding for events. That could be negotiable in theory if someone needs more or less, obviously. And so in the follow-up email, I'm going to send a list of instructions of kind of how to apply for reimbursements and that kind of stuff. But the idea is that we're just another sponsor of an event if it's already been planned with someone else. So you'll get a whole list of instructions in the email, but you'll put like our logo on the flyer or the Facebook events, and then you send in receipts for reimbursement. It's like technical, and you'll get the instructions in the email. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, great. So if no one has any questions or doesn't want to ask right now, that's also okay. Feel free to reach out to me later. This was it, guys. This was the first webinar of the year, and it was pretty awesome. So really thank you all for participating, and really looking forward to continuing this cohort throughout the rest of the year. Want to wish you all a meaningful Yom Kippur, and yeah, we'll all be in touch really soon. Have a great day, guys.
Bye. See you in Springfield soon, Doe. Bye.
Bye.